we've reached the point where most seminars on goal setting will finish. But actually, we've only reached the end of the beginning. Because setting your objectives in your mind, setting your objectives in a way that your subconscious mind understands, setting your mind in a way that actually focuses the mind on the achievement of your objective is just the start. Having seen in your mind's eye what it will be like when you achieve your goals and objectives, you now have to start doing what needs to be done to achieve those goals and objectives. The purpose of setting your mind is to ensure that as you go about your daily life, your actions will actually be in line with, conform to what you want to achieve. Now, if you cast your mind all the way back to the beginning of November, when in the e-zine I mentioned that the third big problem with planning goals and objectives and achieving goals and objectives was that our mind is incapable of matching today's actions to the goals that we want to achieve in the future. When I mentioned that, I actually said it was a big problem. In fact, it is a bloody major stumbling block, isn't it? If my mind, my brain, bearing in mind that mind is what the brain does, if my brain is incapable of ensuring that I can focus on doing what needs to be done to meet my objectives, then how am I going to meet my objectives? And that is why most people have big goals, even big exciting goals, that are never achieved. I know a couple of people who have spent literally tens of thousands of euros on attending seminars that have taught them how to take psychological snapshots to enable them focus their mind on achieving big, huge, wonderful goals. And those big, huge, wonderful goals remain goals. They remain dreams. They haven't been achieved. Because once you get back into the ordinary stream of everyday life, it doesn't matter how big your goal is. It doesn't matter how focused your subconscious mind is on it. If your day-to-day actions can't be adequately coordinated by your brain to ensure that what I do now is in line with what I want to achieve, then I ain't going to achieve those objectives. The piece of the brain that actually is supposed to ensure that our actions now are in line with the goals that we want to achieve in the future is known in cognitive psychological terms as the central executive, and it means what it says on the tin. It is the piece of the brain that coordinates, or is supposed to coordinate, all the other bits of the brain to ensure that in the moment now, what I do is what I should be doing, and that what I'm doing now is being done to the very best of my ability in a fully focused way. The prefrontal cortex up here is the site of the central executive, and neuroscience has proved through neuroimaging that this part of the brain in the ordinary adult is never active, or almost never active. The only time it would normally be active is when we are learning a complex new skill, like for example driving a car, which requires both hands, both feet, so we're talking about all limbs, and a couple of senses, including my sight, my hearing, my feeling, so that's 3 senses rather than a couple, and a huge amount of coordination. When I'm learning to drive a car, my prefrontal cortex, my central executive, is highly activated. But once that skill becomes learned, my prefrontal cortex, my central executive, is no longer involved. It goes back into dormancy. Now, if my central executive is never activated, how in God's name am I actually going to join up the dots and achieve what I want to achieve? Because we achieve things in the future by doing the right things now. Tomorrow is created today. Now, I think you know the answer to this. The answer to this is that you have to train yourself and to discipline yourself to be focused in the present moment. Because if you do learn to be focused in the present moment, your brain will look after the rest. Once you get this bit working, your brain will ensure that all the other bits fall into place. Your brain, your central executive, will in fact join the dots, and you will find yourself in a totally focused way doing the things that need to be done to achieve your objectives. As I said, I think you know the answer. I think you know where I'm going with this. Neuroscience, neuroimaging proves that when we meditate, we activate the central executive. It also proves that those who meditate regularly have bigger central executives, significantly bigger central executives than normal. And that's because this area of the brain, the axons, the neurons, have expanded to cope with the new neural traffic by virtue of the fact that I've decided to use that pathway as a matter of course. So in other words, it's all very well having a fabulous goal, but the goal will only be achieved in the moment-to-moment things that we do, and the moment-to-moment things that we do can only be coordinated in the furtherance of achieving our goals if our central executive is activated. And that means every day you're going to have to do a little bit of mental self-discipline to ensure that your subconscious mind is fully brought into the day-to-day activity of what you do by virtue of the central executive being willfully activated on your part. That means that you now have the picture. You now have seen in your mind's eye what you want to achieve, and you now have the means through which you will be able to do in the best possible way the things that you need to do effortlessly to achieve what you have seen in your mind's eye.